if your sleep has been destroyed, if your lifts are falling off in strength by a ton, if you start to hate training, yeah, it's time to do less. It's time to eat more, etc., etc. Hey folks, Dr. Mike here for Renaissance Periodization, and I am a professor of sport and exercise science, a competitive bodybuilder, and I do jiu-jitsu. But also, just a little while back, I did a pretty cool transformation where I went from not in such great shape to in much better shape. Gained a crap load of muscle and lost a crap load of fat at the same time. And for 5 easy payments of $9.99, I'm going to teach you how to do exactly what I did, but 10x it, so you can be a Silicon Valley millionaire. No, wait. That's me talking to another group of people on my other YouTube channel, which is GetRichQuickSchemes with a Z.net. That's right, I have a .net in the YouTube channel name. But for real this time, my recent transformation, I learned a few lessons that I think you might be able to use. So let me give you a grand tour. Let's do a bit of really, really in-depth navel gazing, so to speak, at my navel, so to speak, and quite literally from some of these pictures, and chat about kind of how it happened. Because if you saw the thumbnail, sure shit hope the thumbnail's not like a dragon or some shit, because then it makes no sense. The thumbnail should be side by side of me looking pretty different. How long did that take? And what the fuck excuse do I have for looking like the before picture? Here we go. So first, what was my transformation? Well, there's a timeline. It took me 12 weeks, which is about 3 months in length, from September to December of 2023. Here comes the weirdness. I started the before picture, and no, I'm not misstating this. I was around 235 pounds, and I estimate it's something like 12-ish% body fat, but I'm not quite sure. So I didn't get a DEXA right then and there. And you'll see in the pictures that, gee whiz, if that's 12%, then I'm fucking Abraham Lincoln. It looks like 30%, but I do have a cool ability to make it look like I'm a lot fatter than I actually am. And maybe it's 30. And then this is way more impressive. So 235 pounds, and I think a lot, around 12% body fat, but feel free to get in the comments and tell me I'm an idiot. Joke's on you, though, because I do have direct DEXA evidence of my post-transformation weight and body composition. 240 pounds, that's a 5-pound gain, and 8.4% body fat on the DEXA scan. And if you look at those after pictures, like, yeah, you couldn't believe that. What? How the hell did that happen? Impressive. Thank you. Please. It was all the drugs. It really kind of was. It was a lot of drugs. How did I do this? How did I gain loads of muscle and lose loads of fat at the same time? And how can I possibly plug our various corporate sponsors? Let's find out. So, how did I do it? Let me give you all the details, or at least most of them. I trained during this time 8 times per week with weights. We'll get to that split in a second. But in addition to that, I also did Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with my wife. That is not a joke. We also have occasional sex. I think. We must have. We have a dog. No, that's not how that works. In any case, actual Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu training, several times per week, 2 to 3. And I do a 12 steps on average per day of cardio, and that's all my cardio. And on top of that, I trained 8 times per week. So let's look at the split really quick. This split I designed, executed, logged, and was adapted to my very needs and auto-regulated every single step of the way by the RP Hypertrophy app. Link in description. I helped build the app. Kind of designed it, and then I use it. It fucking really works. It's just awesome. I'm never training again without it. What did I put in the app? Well, the split is a 6-day split. So I train Monday through Saturday. Monday and Thursday are 2-a-day workouts. So I have an AM session and a PM session. The AM session is generally around AM. In quotations, it was around 2 p.m. that I trained. And the PM session, the late session, was around 6 or 7 p.m. that I trained. So that's Monday, Thursday. The other days were 1-a-days where I trained only at 2 p.m., just one workout. Monday in the morning, I would start with calves. Why calves? Because there may be precious few people on this earth that actually enjoy training calves. Really just hey, what are you doing today in the gym, brother? Not much, man. I'm really fucking pumped. I took 5 Ronnie Coleman pre-workouts because I'm doing calves. What? Really? So calves, they're an afterthought generally in most people's programs. And I want my calves to be nice and juicy because I want my body in as much balance as my shitty genetics will allow. So I train calves first. They're also a great warm up. They got a general warm up for your body and it's just not that hard. There's almost no systemic fatigue from training calves. So I like to start some workouts of the week and just get calves right out of the way. So I was training calves first on Monday and Thursday. And then on Monday and Thursday in that AM workout, I would train some combination of chest and triceps. Now, on some days, chest was first. It was more chest volume than triceps. On other days, it was triceps first and a little bit less chest volume, chest after. But those details are kind of different mesocycle to mesocycle. Mesocycle in the 3 mesocycles that I did during that prep. So, or sorry, 2. I did 2 mesocycles. Each one was 2 weeks long with a little mini break in between. But that's all super, super details. So that's Monday AM and Thursday AM. Monday and Thursday PM, that second workout, I generally did some combination of side delts, biceps, and forearms, or rather forearm flexors and then forearms themselves, wrist flexors. Side delts, you'll notice, are the only kind of delts I train in this program. What? What about rear delts? They give you that pop. And front delts, they give you that whatever front delts do. Well, here's the point of the matter. I'm very convinced that front delts get so much work from just regular pushing during chest training, they scarcely need any more training. They get a really robust stimulus from that. Rear delts get so much awesome training from especially super deep stretch, proper back training that really side delts are kind of take 90 to 100% of the focus of your program when it comes to delts. I really do think that. I may be wrong, but let me know what you think in the comments. I used to train front delts by themselves and rear delts by themselves. We didn't see a whole lot of anything really happen. And it drained me for training side delts, which were not as big, which just looks much, much less impressive. Biceps, forearm flexors, obviously done. Train those twice a week. And then forearms. Why forearms? Because big forearms make your arms look way bigger than otherwise. And if you have big upper arms, but your forearms are small and skinny, man, something just missed. And especially in a bodybuilding stage, I think that is an important thing to do. So I train forearms on their own or sort of give them a slot. And I've been doing that for years and it's been working out really great. So PM, side delts, biceps, and forearms. And that's Monday and Thursday. Right? A little bit different order of exercises for Monday and Thursday, getting to the nitty gritty there, but those muscles were hit. And usually I do 1 to 2 exercises per muscle for almost all these muscles, except for back. Back, I train with 2 to 4 exercises. It's a big muscle group. There's a lot happening. Just 1 exercise for back usually doesn't cut. All right. So it's Monday, Thursday, we got out of the way. Tuesday and Friday, I'm doing some combination of quads, glutes, and hams. You guys have maybe seen some of my workouts on Instagram. That's kind of what they look like. Generally here, yeah, it's 1 to 2, generally more like 1 exercise per muscle group. So I'll generally, my leg days, Tuesday, Friday will be sometimes just 2 exercises, sometimes 4 exercises, most often 3, not a big deal. And then Wednesday and Saturday, I train back. Back usually involves some sort of rowing, some sort of vertical pulling, and sometimes, though not always, some sort of lat prayer, straight arm lat pull down with either a machine or with cables. If I was able to do it, my body doesn't fit super well into places anymore, but I would use some dumbbell sort of behind the neck, lying on a bench type of work, the pullover situation. That's all really good stuff. So I'll use some combination of vertical pulling, horizontal pulling, and lat isolation movements. Generally 2 to 4 exercises there, more like 3 to 4 for back. An example there is I would do weighted pull-ups for a few sets, unweighted pull-ups for usually 1 set, and then a few sets of assisted pull-ups, and then a set of cable rows or something. That's 5 exercises, sort of, even though the pull-ups are all 1 exercise, but weighted pull-ups and unweighted I label as 2 different exercises in the app. It gets a little complex there, but nonetheless, it's exactly how much stimulus I need with exactly how much fatigue I can tolerate as per the RPI Hypertrophy app. On Saturday, not on Wednesday, on Saturday, I do add some side delt work to the end of that workout because I notice that my side delts can recover very rapidly. And if I go hard on biceps twice a week, in addition to training back hard, that's a really good bicep stimulus for me. Forearms, if I train hard twice a week, and also I do tons of back work and use my Versas for, holding onto the barbell for stiff-legged deadlifts and things like that. It's decent amount of forearm work, and actually your forearms work on almost every exercise that you hold something. 2 sessions of forearms per week is really good for me, but I can use more side delts. I can't be honest and say 2 side delt sessions per week is like really, really awesome to prevent muscle loss and potentiate muscle gain during a fat loss phase. And this was a fat loss phase, even though I gained weight. Well, thank you, drugs. So I do side delts at the end of my Saturday workout. So that's my split. That's what I did. Nothing magical, but when people ask like, hey, how many times a week do you train each muscle? You will notice from the split that there's actually a variety of answers to that. Some muscles I train twice a week, some 3 times, and some, if you think about it technically, even 4 times a week. So what was my diet like? Here's really magical. And by that, I mean very straightforward. During the weekdays, I ate something like 3,200 calories per day on average. And that was split into 250 grams of protein, about 440 grams of carbs, and 50 grams of fat. Yes, that is a very low amount of fat that would negatively affect many people's hormones, but my hormones come out of a vial. I don't see how fat could affect them unless you poured olive oil in the vial. Now, don't do that. Don't do that. That's bad for your health. On weekends, and I'll talk about this in a little bit more depth in just a second, it was more of a relaxing time, more of a time to bring down fatigue. And thus, I went to 3,900 calories on weekends, 700 calories more than on weekdays. Same protein, 250 grams. And I weigh, 235 to 240. So there you go, just over a gram per pound. And carbs went up to 570 grams from 440, and fats went up to 70. And there's not really a plan there to increase fats. It's just that when you eat more carbs, usually fats come along for the ride, like oatmeal and stuff like that has some fats that come in for the ride. And also, my wife and I would typically try to go on like one date, date night. Oh my God, date night, per week. And that would often occur on a Saturday. And you go on a date and you go to a restaurant, and you can make some healthier choices, but you're not going to get 10 grams of fat in your pasta. You might get 30, and then that's kind of where the extra stuff comes from. So on average, this worked out to be roughly 3,400 kilocalories per day and every week. And how does this relate to my maintenance calories? Well, here's where it gets complicated. And that's why it was one of the reasons I wanted to make this video for you guys, to tell you about how this all works in the enhanced realm, in which I swim like a tasty, plump goldfish. Did I say tasty? Are you supposed to eat goldfish? Scott the Video Guy, are goldfish edible? Technically, anything's edible. Quote, Scott the Video Guy. That works in locker rooms, Pride Parade, the locker room after the Pride Parade. My estimate for maintenance was a giant question mark. Somewhere between 3,500 and 4,000 daily calories. The problem is twofold. One, some of the substances you take in an enhanced prep, like thyroid hormone, for example, can have pretty significant effects on what your maintenance calories even are. They actually ramp up or ramp down your metabolism. Another problem is that body weight fluctuations are so intense when you're on special sport supplements, when you're enhanced, that it's really difficult to figure out what your maintenance even actually is at any one point. So real trouble with that. And I've been struggling with that for a while. And this prep was kind of to figure out, hey, what is a good amount of prep calories to diet on? And because the prep I did before this, I went real low. I went actually just below 3,000 calories on average over 14 weeks of prep. And I made a few other mistakes, but the food was really, really insufficient. And I lost some muscle. I lost some strength. And I didn't have the best look that I wanted. So I bumped the calories significantly. The only problem was the thyroid hormone that I typically take in order to support my anabolic activity. So thyroid hormone has kind of 2 uses in an enhanced prep. One is it actively increases your metabolism, which makes you burn more fat. If you crank that high enough, you stop sleeping, you get really anxious, and you increase your risk of early death when you're older by a huge factor. It just runs your metabolism faster, and there's just not as much of you around anymore, or not for as long. So not a good idea to really ramp that up, but it's a good to take a little bit super physiological just to keep the whole situation cooking and keep everything moving. And that has a lot to do with the second reason you take thyroid, is that anabolics and growth hormone and things like that, they really ramp up various aspects of your metabolism. And if other aspects of your metabolism are still natty because they don't ramp them all, they can be limiting factors for you. So thyroid hormone, if ramped appropriately with exogenous androgens and growth hormone, can work in a synergistic effect. It's like the analogy is like if you're going to have a car that's going to race and you put a baller engine in there, put that fucking tail fin on there and do that midnight club shit where the bottom of your car is blue, you might as well put some racing tires on that motherfucker. Because if you just have regular tires, yeah, it's like, absolutely, your car will go faster with a big engine and the tail fin and the blue lights. Anime girl spray painted on the side. You guys know what I'm saying. You've been to a few of these Tokyo drift parties before. But something's missing. And if you enhance the tires as well, you get the whole package. And that's one of the things that thyroid hormone escalation through a dosing cycle tends to be good for. A big problem for me was that the thyroid source I had was just fake. It just wasn't real. So I was hypothyroid this entire time. And boy, did I feel it. And that really kind of sucked. So that threw a total wrench in my estimation of what maintenance is and is not, and also when you ramp your gear, because I progressively increased my supplements throughout this entire time, as you're supposed to do, it adds so much body water to your system that body weight becomes entirely useless. So was I in a deficit this prep? Probably, yeah, but not in as big of a deficit I should have been because I had fake fucking thyroid. Another problem is that if you're hypothyroid, not only does that kick you in the nuts for fat loss, it actually kicks you in the nuts for muscle growth, because that whole process of muscle growth that anabolics and growth hormone cook up for you, it kind of fries in a stew of thyroid hormone. That general speed of your metabolism can increase anabolism as well as catabolism. And if you're taking an appropriate amount of anabolics, you ramp the anabolism like crazy, or at least facilitate it, and then the catabolism gets largely canceled out. So I sure as fucking shit did not lose any muscle on this prep, but I didn't gain as much muscle as I could have or lose as much fat as I could have. Now I'm about to start a prep in a few months again right now. Whenever you see this video, God knows when that'll come out. I might already be halfway through my prep, and then I'll be using a for real thyroid hormone this time. So a bit of a monkey wrench situation. Do you throw the monkey and the wrench into the gears? Like, just blood and monkey guts spill everywhere. That's how I always thought about it. So my calories were 3,400. I think normally that would be a robust deficit for me, or at least the beginning of a deficit. But in this circumstance, it was kind of almost entirely, I think, a hugely recomposition event. So I gained a crap load of muscle, which was sweet, lost a crap load of fat, which was sweet. I would have ideally liked to gain at least as much muscle, but lose much more fat. I had the time to do it could have gotten much leaner, but with a hypothyroid condition, quite technically, it's very, very difficult to get leaner. But I still got pretty jacked and pretty lean. So that is the situation for the general diet. Let me give you an example of a typical day of eating. Full day of eating, Dr. Mike. Scott Video guy, when are we posting that stupid ass video?
When the app update happens.
Oh, years from now. FDOE. Fuck that shit. In any case, I typically had about 5 meals per day, usually 4 on weekends, 5 on weekdays. And I had meal 1 at about 10 a.m., about an hour after I typically woke up, hour and a half. I wake up, do some morning cardio, mostly just walk around my basement and listen to intellectual lectures on stuff, or try to call people that I thought were my friends, but they never pick up. And so that 10 a.m., I sit down and I start my workday. And I start my workday with 3 protein bars and a decaf coffee. And a lot of people have given me shit for that for some reason. But I don't know why. I don't know why. People don't like protein bars. I guess you're supposed to eat real food, brother. That's how Branch Warren did it. So I'll let you guys know if more real food turns me into Branch Warren, though. Sure, that is exciting. Decaf coffee, because stimulants make me way too crazy, and so I almost never consume them. And it's tasty. Coffee's delicious. So I had some Splenda in that motherfucker. I make it in a shake. It looks really disgusting, but I promise you it's probably really disgusting. But I like it. That's my morning meal. 4 hours later, meal number 2 is at 2 p.m. I'm not a big eater in the morning. I'm just not very hungry, and I like to do most of my intellectual work, like not on a super full stomach. So I do tons of really great work. I'm basically in my office this entire time from 10 to 2 and, making PowerPoints and outlines and doing app stuff and writing articles and so on and so forth. I guess I'm a professor, so I do university stuff. All the jobs that I have to do, I do down there in the basement all by myself with no one to check on me to see if I'm okay or care about me. At 2 p.m., I begin training. Typically, I would begin training during this transformation. And with me, I would have a training shake, or a couple shakes really, that end up being 30 grams-ish of protein and about 60 grams of carbs. from whey protein and Gatorade, respectively. After that training was done, I would normally take a shower. After the shower, I would have a meal of chicken thighs, usually or often, rice and slaw with some seasoning in there, and that would be 50 grams of protein, 195 grams of carbs, because I do think consuming, especially when you're enhanced, a bit more of your carbohydrate around the workout window is sensible. About 15 grams of fat, those just ancillary fats from the chicken thighs, so no extra fats added. And then 3 hours later, after some more sitting down and working for a while, I would have ground turkey-ish, rice and slaw. Why am I saying ish? Because these are just example meals that I often ate, but not always ate. This is not, I think people tend to look at folks who are pretty jacked and lean and look at their diet like a codex. They're like, this is exactly what I need to do to get in shape. Like, Dr. Mike, why chicken thighs? There is no fucking reason. No reason at all. It has protein in it, and it has as much fat as I need for that meal, and it tastes okay. That's it. There are about 600 other foods, all kinds of fish, all kinds of ground everything, ground beef, chicken, pork, blah, 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 that you can absolutely insert into that meal. The carbs could be totally different. That's not the make or break it thing by a long shot. It's hardly even a factor. 50 protein, 120 carbs, 15 fats for that meal. So the carbs start coming down. For me, I like to have not an overly full stomach before I go to sleep, because then, well, gee whiz, I'll just get really shitty sleep and wake up hot and all this other crazy crap. And sometimes my food likes to roll from my esophagus into my windpipe if I lay down with too much food in my stomach. So bad news there. So I start to kind of curtail my eating towards the end of the day. And then my last meal is at 10 p.m. And that's usually when I'm watching some relaxing television with my wife to finish off the day. And that's generally 3 containers, or it was very often for this little test prep, 3 containers of Oikos Pro Greek yogurt, which I highly recommend. It's delicious. 3 extra grams of fat per yogurt, which got this meal to 60 grams of protein, 25 grams carbs, and 10 fats, which is fucking baller macros. Those 3 extra grams of fat make the yogurt so much creamier and more delicious than regular totally fat-free Greek yogurt. So I would give it some thought. If you have it at the store, I would definitely give some thought to buying it. Now, this entire system of how I ate, macros and meals and timing, is quite complex. And I managed it entirely through the RP Diet Coach app. Now, I get to use a version of the app that you folks won't see for a while. There's two ways in which it's different. One, it's a testbed version for new technologies that we're testing, new app design. It's fucking sweet. And I get to use it first, motherfuckers, because I sort of designed that shit. The other way in which it's different is it breaks all the fucking time because it's a pre-alpha build. So I'm the first group of 2 or 3 people testing it. So before you hit us up and say, when's the new app coming out? You don't want it yet because it's like a baby. It's got tons of promise, but we're still not done injecting it with various super serum compounds. That's how babies are raised, right? Anyway, I think so. RP Diet Coach app, in its current form, however, is fit for purpose for almost all the stuff. And you can start using it right now if you link in the bio or whatever. I don't think it's linked in, but you can look on the iTunes store and the Google Play Store, and it's already there. How's that for a corporate plug? Huh? You buying stuff yet? Go buy stuff. All right. What about supplements? I'm not entirely really sure how to do this. I do have an older video where I discuss a hypothetical alternate universe where I gave out my dosages and stuff like that. You can feel free to try to find that. I don't know about YouTube's policies for talking about drugs this openly. So I'm going to not give you guys exact dosages of compounds or anything. What I will say is if you really want to learn stuff, right, you would be doing a really good thing if you looked into Joe Jeffrey and his safer use model for how to take drugs appropriately in a way that you understandably make health trade-offs for relatively known effects. You're not just randomly taking shit. You're not taking a bunch of toxic compounds all the goddamn time for no reason at high doses. So I mostly took compounds like primobolan, for example, at moderate to high doses, and some testosterone and some growth hormone as well, blah, blah, blah. But I stayed largely away especially from high doses, of orals and of trenbolone and things like that. So very, very kind of, if you had a temperature to drug use, it would be like a moderate. It's not simmer. It's not boil. It's somewhere like 1/3 of the way towards boiling. So something that makes sense to me in my context. One of the reasons, though, that I had this crazy transformation that you see in the pictures of the thumbnail is that for a month before this, I was recovering from being overtrained from my last show, like legitimately overtrained. Like I way weaker. I lost all motivation to train. It was really fucking crazy. First time in my life. So basically for like 3.5 weeks, I almost didn't lift at all or exercise at all. Now, I still ate pretty reasonably. I didn't I didn't get to be a fucking balloon animal, which is why I actually only weighed 235 at the beginning of this prep and 240 after. But in that month of not training and being on almost no supplements at all, just a very, very TRT type of dose, well, gee whiz, I lost a lot of muscle and gained a lot of fat since my last show. When you see people that are looking unbelievable and incredible and they're enhanced, their most unbelievable and incredible will be when they're most enhanced. And when they're very unenhanced, either they were just enhanced recently or they look much, much worse than normal. This is not rocket science. I just want to clue you guys in a bit of how it works. So yeah, coming off of almost no training for 3.5 weeks and much lower dosages than make me look like, Superman or whatever version of that I look, can give me a crazy transformation when I start training again regularly and get back on all the fun special sports supplements. So that's a huge reason for the transformation. And to be completely honest with you guys, it's probably the biggest reason of how the details of what the transformation involved. So ta-da, welcome to social media. But you got to cut me slack for one thing, maybe. I'm not lying to you. A lot of people would have made this video and maybe just said hey, this is how this RP Diet Coach and Hypertrophy app. No, those are awesome tools. They play a super big role. But me, I'm pursuing my best enhanced bodybuilding physique that I think I'm capable of doing with reasonable health trade-offs. Yeah, I will take these things that poison my mind and poison my body and can't fucking wait to be done with them. But I have a few goals to check off. And getting really jacked and lean in my prime, just somewhere between age 40 and 42. I'm 40-ish right now. I'll be 42 in a few years. Somewhere between there, I'm going to get a look that I really like, and I'll just quit the fucking sport. Until then, I have to take this goddamn poison. And it looks cool. The results are great, but it feels like shit. And it steals your health, and it actually reduces your intelligence in some ways, most of which are reversible, some of which may not be, which is really unfortunate, big tragedy. But that's the deal. So now you can see what kicking in to hardcore diet mode, hardcore training mode, hardcore cardio mode, and taking the subs from sitting on the runway to fucking flying to the moon. Well, in my case, maybe an SR-71 Blackbird circling the Earth. Yes, with aerial refueling. Don't get at me in the comments. I know its range is limited. In any case, nerd shit aside, that's how you see what kind of visual impact all of those things can have together at the same time. It's a big deal. But if I was already training hard and eating super well and on TRT, then the transformation would have been impressive, but not nearly as impressive. And so for folks that are if I take drugs, it'll all happen for me. This is not the transformation to advertise that. That's if you don't train, don't eat that much, and you're overtrained, so you're in a real bad spot. And then you start, everything heals up, fixes itself, you're not overtrained anymore. And then you kick it into high gear with all the things, then that's what happens. And this is something that happened to me anyway. So I was I'll be getting into much better shape than this. Maybe I'll take some before pictures, which I don't often do. And we'll make a video about this to tell people kind of how my transformation journey occurred. So that's why I made this video. Ta-da. All right. So all the basics are there. Let's talk about what was different than what I had done before. 3 things different than my past preps. And this prep ended in the middle of December, so there was no show to compete in. It was just a test prep, but nonetheless, I learned a lot. I'll talk about formally what I learned after this, but let's talk about what actually was different. I didn't use really different drugs than usual, a bit less. I used a bit more growth hormone than usual, but I was using fake thyroid hormone. So I call that a wash. So there's not this huge driver of more metabolism for more gear. That was not in effect. I definitely consume more food than any other prep I've ever done before. 400 calories on average or more food, which is a really big deal. And I was using a test version of the RP Diet Coach app to do this. That I loved, so that was different. I've never used the RP Diet Coach app, even though I designed it years ago and other people have thought it was great. It wasn't really fit for my kind of more exotic bodybuilding purposes, but now it sure shit is. And I can't believe I've been doing this without that fucking app for so long. Now, this increased food, 400 extra calories, was a big deal in terms of 2 factors. And I think it helped in 2 separate ways. 1, fatigue management. Calories fight fatigue better than everything except for maybe sleep. And if you eat more food, you drop more fatigue and you don't accumulate as much to begin with. That fuels your training like crazy. It allows you to gain more muscle, and it allows you to power through all your cardio and do everything else and sleep better, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's a panacea. The problem is the panacea for eating more food on a fat loss phase is like, the ultimate weapon against terrorism on aircraft would be if everyone had a handgun. The problem is they don't let you bring handguns on planes. So yes, a hypercaloric diet would be amazing to fight fatigue on a fat loss plan, but there's a contradiction in terms. You can't bring a hypercaloric diet into a fat loss plan. However, you can lower the degree of the deficit. So instead of cutting 1,000 calories out of your plan like I'm used to doing, I cut only 600-ish, which is what happened here. And my fatigue management was much better. I did not accumulate as much fatigue through the entire prep, and that resulted in a better look for reasons I'll explain in just a bit. And this increased amount of calories fueled sort of the fire of recomposition. When you're taking special sports supplements, it's like putting some fucking really, it's like taking an engine into your car and putting in the most exotic, super high-end engine, right? If you continue to consume very few calories like you do when you're natty, it's kind of like putting regular gasoline into an exotic engine. Like, it'll work. It'll still go way faster than a regular engine or help your car go faster, but there's something missing. So when you have an exotic engine, you want exotic fuel to put in it so that it really optimizes the process. And in body terms, the anabolic drive and metabolic alterations of taking plenty of steroids and growth hormone, and especially thyroid hormone, can allow you to build more muscle and burn more fat, or some combination of the two, if you eat more food. If you don't eat more food, something's missing. I'll put it another way. If you have two people, they take the exact same amount of gear. One person diets down at 3,000 calories, the other at 3,400. They may end up at almost the same body fat percent at the end, except the person who diets on more food will just straight up have more muscle. It is the answer. This only really applies to enhanced folks at the extremes or at this level. But in other situations, if you're, for example, drug-free and you're dieting at 1,900 calories, but you would be totally fine. A 500 calorie deficit for you would be 2,500 calories. If you diet at 2,500 calories for a bit longer, you'll notice you keep a lot more of your muscle mass, which is a big deal. I used to be a big fan of super intense calorie deficits. Let's get this done. Let's be hardcore, lots of willpower. And the honest answer is it worked to get me quite lean, but it didn't get me as lean and muscular as I would like to have been. And this time it really did work out like that. So that's awesome. Now the bunk fucking thyroid hormone throws a huge wrench in that, but now I got the real shit. So hopefully I'll be getting in better shape. So more food was a huge difference. And the other big difference for this prep versus the others was that I had more distinct relaxation time set aside. My wife and I split our work and rest into very distinct periods in a day, week, and month. Every day at around 7 p.m., we would cut off our work and go chill on TV or maybe go for a walk and just chill out. No more work after 7 p.m. every single day. On the weekends, generally after about Saturday early afternoon, we would cut off all work and basically not work until, sort of Sunday evening, some preparatory stuff, but really Monday morning. And usually we just kind of worked all the time, and that would exhaust the living fuck out of us. And during the month, what that means is like on a deload or the second half of the deload during the mesocycles, we would try to take a few days of just working half a day, even a quarter of a day, or even a few days of no work at all, which for us is tough. We're really involved in our careers. But we pull back and we really relax in a huge way. And thus what we ended up doing here was really taking the amount of total fatigue that was coming up and limiting how much it came up. And also whatever came up, we were really good about bringing it back down. So our fatigue management this time was way better than last time. My wife prepped with me last time during the summer of 2023. And she lost a pretty significant amount of muscle. She regained all of it, but she lost plenty of muscle because we just tried to burn everything to the ground. We worked as much as we could. We trained as much as we could. We did as much cardio as we could. We ate as little as we could. And it was like all full steam ahead. The problem is the body is this delicate thing that requires lots of nourishment and nurturing to get it to its best athletic result, not just punishment. Listen, if punishment was the straight line to success, your boy would be the fucking Mr. Olympia right now. Unfortunately, there's more to it than that. And that balance, I know it sounds fucking lame, balance is some shit your fucking yoga teacher says as you stare at her titties and wonder why she speaks at all. It's real. It's a real thing. Recovery is massively important. I know I tell you guys that all on the channel, but sometimes we don't all practice what we preach. So I would tell everyone else, recover. And I would tell myself, come on, Israel, you little bitch, you can do this. And I just push and push and push. And so did my wife. This time we pulled back and we just got straight up better results. My wife straight up got ultra jacked and she lost very little weight during this prep, but she managed to gain muscle and lose fat at the same time because she wasn't starving herself and beating her head against the wall, working every second that she was awake. This paid off big time, and I highly recommend that when you're doing a really stringent fat loss diet, especially, no matter what you do for a job, career, anything like that, try to get a little bit more chill time. Get yourself some more sleep. Get yourself some more relaxation. It will pay off fucking huge. All right. What did I learn from this whole process on this test prep that I hadn't known before? First, thyroid support is a really good idea on special sports supplements, and hypothyroid in any case really sucks balls. So let that be the lesson. Yahoo. Not much to say there because I'm not really a drug expert, but a drug expert that I consult with often, his name is Broderick Chavez. I'm actually wearing his t-shirt, Team Evil GSP. And he told me something at the end or at the beginning of this prep that really fueled a lot of my redesign of my prep. He said something to the effect of stress is the great killer of physiques. And that's a big deal because I always thought if I grind, if I stress, if I push hard, I will get everything out of my body that I am capable of getting. But I was entirely ignoring roughly half of the equation of relaxation and recovery and eating plenty and so on and so forth. I was trying to starve and work as hard as possible. But something that Broderick told me, which was comedic when he said it, is like, typically people in like prisoner of war camps, they're not like shredded. They're skinny and there's some fat left over and they just look depleted and awful. Shredded takes something different. It takes a reduction in food that's moderate, an elevation in training that's moderate, and then just time to let that process cook, especially on anabolics, but in any case. And one of the reasons, this is a big deal because I sort of just learned it. One of the reasons that the grind mentality is something you see all over social media being valorized, as it should be valorized to some extent. One of the big reasons that the grind mentality is something a lot of elite athletes talk about is because to many of their listeners and even to many elite athletes themselves, the grind is fucking hard. They're just not really made for being hard workers. They're kind of default to lazy. Look, a lot of us, it's not a moral judgment. A lot of us default to like, fuck this, I don't want to do anything. And so if the optimal amount of work is here and the optimal amount of relaxation is here, and here's the balance, a lot of people are like right here. So they got to get a lot of social media consumption about how the fucking grind is awesome, Rocky Balboa, Branch Warren, and then it brings them up to where they should be in that balance of grinding and chilling. My wife and I were like right here. And so when we brought down our grinding and expanded our chilling, it ended up being this amazing miracle cure for enhancing physique and strength and all this other stuff. We also had a way better time on prep, which again, a better emotional time, physically affects the hormones in your body like cortisol, stress hormones, and those are the ones that burn muscle and help the construction of fat in some contexts. So really, when you think about it, it's all in that balance. People talk about the grind all the fucking time, and most of the people for whom that resonates are people, or resonates most, I'll put it another way, most of the people that need to hear that are a little lazier than the average person who's trying to push. But many of you out there, very, very many of you are already pushing really fucking hard. And then when you don't get the results you want, you push harder, you deprive yourself more. Maybe that's the answer. But if that has not been the answer for you in a few test runs of this, try to pull back, try to ease up. I'm not saying just go eat pizza all the fucking time. This entire diet had 0 cheat meals the entire fucking time, but I had more healthy food. And that made a huge difference. So for those who default to working a lot and to really pushing, the grind mentality can and often will make you worse. It's all in the balance. You want to adopt a balance. When you're really tired, it's time to chill. When you have plenty of energy, it's time to grind. If you have a huge amount of fatigue and you're still grinding, yeah, it's cool to pat yourself on the back and say you're tough. Dope. I don't know if anyone receives that message other than you. If you need that soul medicine of thinking you're a fucking warrior, awesome. I think it's really good for you to push yourself. I pushed myself for the first time in my life at age 39, just recently, during my grind phase or in early 2023, into formal overtraining. Okay. So like, I have no more ego about not working hard enough. I outworked my body's literal ability to recover by a long shot. So I don't have that monkey on my back anymore. I guess I did for a while. And it's stupid. If you have a monkey on your back, just all you need is a 9mm to go It doesn't matter if you kill the monkey. He's at least mortally wounded and he'll fucking run off. But if he's still attacking you, Jesus. Where was I? Oh, yeah. So the balance. Yes, push hard, but also relax. It's the relaxation and the food and the sleep and the low stress and the hanging out with your friends and having fun and watching Netflix alone like a desperate person who no one talks to like me. That's the stuff that refuels the engine. And then you go for another ride and then you refuel. It has to be in that balance. Look, if you can push harder, fucking push. But if you can't push much harder anymore, relaxing is the best medicine you need to get your most jacked. A lot of people think morally, if I'm pushing, I'm winning. If I'm relaxing, I'm retreating. I'm losing. And if I can lose less, then I can gain more. Total nonsense. If you are mostly retreating, yes, it sucks. If you're mostly relaxing, you're not going to be great. But if you're pushing further than your body can handle, then God damn it, ease up. If your sleep has been destroyed, if your lifts are falling off in strength by a ton, if you start to hate training, yeah, it's time to do less. It's time to eat more, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What's next for me is I'm prepping for Masters Nationals, I think, in July. And that's going to be 17 weeks, hopefully with real thyroid this time. Maybe I'll get into cool shape. If I don't get injured or some shit, then maybe you'll see some good stuff from me. And maybe you already are, depending on this when this video is being released. All right. Lastly, what can you take away from this experience based on your level of advancement? I'll tell you this way. If you're a beginner, all you need to take from this, other than the cool goo gaga big words about drugs, is stay the course of the plan. And if it's a remotely good plan, time will take care of the rest. Time is the big factor. A lot of beginners second guess. Am I making the right exercise selections? Am I doing the right food? Blah, 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 blah. Fuck all that. Whatever plan you have, if it's decent, remotely decent, if you got it on the nice part of the internet, just do it and you'll get great results. And then later you can re-architect the plan when you know so much more about planning and so much more about yourself. Intermediates. The big lesson for you, I think, from this, is, as far as I can tell, is pushing hard is a side of the coin that you're mastering now as an intermediate. You're fucking really learn how to grind. Beginners don't know how to grind, largely. Intermediates, they're really catching their swag. But that other side of the coin is pulling back, eating, and resting. And it's an equally important other side of the coin. You don't want to turn it into Two-Face where the coins have the same side and your face is all fucked up. You still go out in public and fight Batman even though your face is fucked. I guess the Batman comics were like from the 30s or some shit like that, so they didn't have plastic surgery. God damn it, dude, put a fucking paper bag over that shit. Two-Face, nobody used to see that shit, homie. I hope Batman beats that ass just so, you know what I'm saying, you get enough shame to stay the fuck out of public. Good God, I'm trying to eat. Look at your face. But in any case, two sides of the coin. Two sides of the coin, and yes, there is a warrior-like valor in pushing it. But when you're trying to get an elite physique, I want you to think less in terms of Spartan bullshit, which absolutely has its fucking place, and more in terms of we're engineering a very special cyborg war machine. And when you see someone engineering a cyborg, you typically don't take like a 500 kilogram hammer and just bash the shit. Now, you in stress testing, absolutely you would do that. But also you go in with little drills and the microprocessors, and you have the temperature conditions, super control. There's UV light on the shit and microcircuitries being very carefully inserted. It's careful. It's a caretaking process. You're building something that requires a lot of nurturing, fucking literally. That's what you want, right? When they build tanks at the factory, there's a lot of like steel on steel, clank, clank, clank type of shit, for sure, grind away. But there's also the finer parts that install the optical targeting system. You don't fucking bang that shit in. That's like $5 million you don't want to bang in there. And it's a very fine-tuned process of caretaking, of applying the special coating and all this other stuff. That's the stuff in your physique journey you have to focus on as much as the grind. The grind breaks your shit down. The recovery, the rest, the sleep, the relaxation brings your shit back up. And yes, you are losing fat the entire time, so you tilt that process a little bit in favor of the grind. But if you tilt it too much, you fall off the other end, and you look like me at my last show. 5th place. Not so great. Advanced folks, it might take you a while to diagnose what your limiting factors are. One of the reasons I did this little test prep was I kind of wanted to see if I push and pull here and there, what's going to happen. It takes a while to learn your body, and that's okay. You're in for the long term. And if you say, well, I'm just going to change everything all at once and see if what's good is good comes out, you can't line up any attribution of those factors. So if you change like 10 things about your prep and then you have a great result, you're like, that was awesome. And someone's like, what was the big difference? You're like, I don't know. I can't know intellectually because I have no ability to attribute. Was it the first thing I did? Was it the 8th thing? Was it the 3rd? Was it the 5th? Who knows? But if you change just a few things, maybe even one at a time, but if with a few things you can kind of elucidate some stuff, then you can really have some great directionality to understanding, okay, what do I need more of? Is it more relaxation or is it less food? What do I need more of? Is it more drugs, less drugs? Do I need to diet for longer, diet for shorter? What are my deficits? If you play with 1 or 2 factors at a time, you're going to accumulate a wisdom for your own body. So you can get the best results from your body that you can, and a wisdom about the entire experience that you can generalize to other people that you may be helping in your own coaching practice. Maybe when you randomly come up to people in the grocery store and you're like, hey, what do you think about body composition enhancement? I can tell you how to do it a little better. And they're like, just pepper spray you, and you cry. You cry. And the crying is no different than you do every day because you live for nothing and there's no one that cares about you. And by you, I mean me. Anyway, if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, the comments section is the place to put them. See you guys there, and see you guys next time.